minerals industry is facing public expectations to reduce emissions. These expectations are integrated into national laws, action plans, and voluntary industry initiatives. Companies now need to measure their emissions, set targets for reduction, and report the outcomes. The RMI's Risk Readiness Assessment can guide you in evaluating where you stand and where to make improvements. Here we'll go through the basic steps for meeting these expectations. Select the scope, measure baseline emissions, set targets and programs, monitor, and report. These steps should be integrated into your management system. It helps you identify issues, set targets, assign responsibilities, carry out your plans, and track and review progress for continual improvement. To begin, you'll need to know how much you're emitting. But what should count as your emissions? Should it be just the emissions from your own smokestacks and tailpipes? Or should it include the external power plants that supply your electricity? Or must you add in the emissions of your suppliers? This is the question about scope. Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. The short answer is you need to start with Scope 1 and 2. Our criteria expect you to at least account for your direct emissions and the emissions from purchased energy. However, when suppliers use energy to make products for you, those are your emissions. Many end customers count Scope 3 emissions, so you need to work toward counting Scope 3 emissions also. Now that you know the scope to consider, you can calculate your greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas calculators like the GHG protocol will do the calculations automatically once you enter the basic information. For example, suppose a processing facility uses 1,000 liters of number 2 fuel oil each hour in a furnace. In a month of continuous operation, that's 720,000 liters. Enter this into the spreadsheet calculator, and you find that your furnace emits 1,933 tons of CO2 each month. Once you know your emissions, set reduction targets and define the measures necessary to achieve them. Your target should state the amount you plan to reduce emissions by. The amount you emit changes in relation to production volume, so it can help to set targets in terms of efficiency. How much do you emit per unit of final product or input material processed? This is called your greenhouse gas intensity. For example, if your furnace processes 1 ton of ore per hour, your GHG intensity is 1,933 tons GHG divided by 720 tons of ore. Then you can set targets to reduce this GHG intensity. To achieve your targets, establish the measures necessary to control greenhouse gas emissions. Usually these programs aim to improve efficiency or switch to renewable energy or lower emission fuels. Companies can improve processes to become more efficient, reducing greenhouse gas intensity. The approach you use depends on your specific circumstances. In the case of the furnace, you might improve insulation to better utilize the energy. You might also capture waste heat to use in another process, like preheating water for boilers. As the cost of some types of renewable energy continue to fall, this can be a good option for facilities that still run on diesel generators. Major copper and iron mines are building and investing in solar energy at production sites. Recently, as battery prices continue to fall, some mines have been changing mining equipment from fuels to electricity. Electrification combined with renewable energy can allow mines to reduce emissions. One basic improvement can be to switch to a lower emission fuel. In our case of the furnace, it could be changed over to run on natural gas instead of oil. With your measures in place, monitor annual greenhouse gas emissions. Evaluate your progress in meeting your targets and adjust your program accordingly. Finally, publicly report the results using an internationally recognized GHG reporting framework. The Risk Readiness Assessment can show you how well you're meeting expectations to manage greenhouse gas emissions. Embed these steps in your management system. Select the scope, measure baseline emissions, set targets and programs, monitor and report. This helps you meet expectations to control emissions and reduces your contributions to climate change.